Hello everyone, today I'm here to talk to you about Terraforming Mars in the Shadow of Deimos. This is one of the first one of apparently at least two books in the Terraforming Mars sort of universe. Obviously, we're not unfortunately actually terraforming Mars, and it's based on at least the original board game, maybe even Ares Expedition is sort of in there somewhere, but it's pretty much the logic is that the different corporations are trying their different terraforming methods, and they're very set in stone of we crash asteroids into the planet, we are going to try and do it sort of eco-line, greenery wise and different things like that. And part of the plot line, not a spoiler, on the back of the book, is that they don't see eye to eye, and when a sort of very bad event happens, was it just an accident? And that's pretty much where it sort of goes and explores, and it's really interesting how it actually captures the different corporations, what they're trying to do, the conflict of the corporations that you get in the board game, where one player is playing very differently from another based on their corporation, because that's giving them their sort of special abilities to get things cheaper or whatever. And it also has like the personal level of you're following a few sort of characters around, getting to know them, why they've actually even gone to Mars to help terraform it. And it sort of covers it nicely in terms of it knows we're not going to be skipping through time. We're at one plot line part way into the terraforming. We're not going to see the end of the terraforming. The characters touch on that as well, and that's really interesting that the characters sort of do discuss how they've left Earth behind. They've left their life behind. Why they've left it behind in some cases, and sort of go on to go, look, we're starting the process. We're building. They're starting to build this city and stuff like that, and you get all the way down from these big ideas of that's clearly what they're aiming to do, what it's going to be, but then they kind of know that they're never really going to see it actually get to that, but they're still quite happy to be there. At least they were happy until certain events happen. I'm not going to spoil that exact event, but it does come into the idea of the corporations not necessarily seeing eye to eye and trying to one-up each other in almost any way they can. You've got the sort of everyday workers, the ones that have got a little bit more money and stuff like that. So you see a little glimpse into that, and I maybe would have liked a little bit more of that. I think it would have been cool to explore that, but there's another book in the series. Maybe that will do it. I don't think it's out yet though. But yeah, it would have been nice to maybe get a bit more of a we're just the labourers building the city and stuff like that, and then we're the people that are sort of above you, the management level, and it would have been interesting to see a little bit more of a sort of a class-based problem being into the mix, because I think it could have been in there. It could have presented more issues as people sort of look down on others, but that wasn't in there. But overall, it was a relatively good read compared to the Pandemic book, which I read before. I think it kicked off that little bit quicker. It got to sort of what had happened. You didn't know why it had happened or everything behind it, but the event happens relatively early on, whereas in that the Pandemic book, it did seem to take a little bit of time to get into the story. This, it had the introductions, but then the event happened and the introductions were still carrying on, and they were learning about the event and everything at the same time. And I think that was a better way of doing it, because you got some big interest as well as just sort of giving you the basics backgrounds for the story. If you really like Terraforming Mars, you might like it, but it's not necessarily exactly like the board game, but it captures certain elements of it, like the committees, the terraforming in different ways, Noctis City and a few different locations that you can build and are on the sort of map of the board. They're there and it's talked about. That's quite nice. If you don't know Terraforming Mars, I wouldn't suggest just because you like this book to go and play the board game. It's a fantastic board game, but it's quite long, complicated and everything like that. But it's fantastic as well. As the name suggests, it is all about terraforming Mars with little caveats of Earth happening in the background of why they left it behind and things like that. All in all, not a bad read. That is the In the Shadow of Deimos Terraforming Mars book.